Hello everyone, my name is Sarafi and I'm happy to meet you all. And today we're going to be talking about some more Pokemon TCG Pocket content. Currently I'm still working on getting the cards necessary to play a competitive deck, so instead of showing you any gameplay today, we're just going to talk about some of the decks that have already been established because the game was released a month early in certain regions and there's already been a meta that's kind of evolved. So for the people who are just getting into it and wondering what cards they should prioritize, this is one of the cheapest decks that is seeing some play right now. The deck focuses around Dragonite, and Dragonite is not an EX Pokemon. That's very beneficial to you for a couple of reasons. Number one, it's cheap. Dragonite is a 3 rarity card, as opposed to all the 4 rarity cards that the other EX decks require you to find. And Dragonite has no weaknesses, and since it's not an EX Pokemon, that means that if it's knocked out, your opponent only takes 1 prize. So it's not nearly as one-sided of a game as an EX deck, where you spend all your resources on 1 unit, and if that unit gets destroyed, you basically have lost the game right there. So let's talk about the 2 different versions of Dragonite and how they function. Dragonite itself is a Stage 2 Dragon Pokemon with 160 health. There are no Dragon energies in the game, interestingly enough. Even though there are Darkness energies and Steel energies and Psychic energies and everything else, Dragon types use Water and Electric energies instead. So when you play a Dragon deck, you are required to play 2 different energy types. And then, of course, how it works is 1 turn you'll get water energies and 1 turn you'll get lightning energies. So you just have to make sure that you have your Dratini on the board 2 turns in a row so that it can get both types of energies. And that does mean that you can't equip energies to other Pokemon because you want to make sure you get both colors. That is a high demand for a deck, but we have found workarounds. So Dragonite has 160 health, and its attack is called Draco Meteor. One of your opponent's Pokemon is chosen at random 4 times. So you hit 1 Pokemon 4 times, and each Pokemon that was chosen takes 50 damage. This is very similar to Zapdos's attack, where you flip 4 coins and you deal 50 damage times the number of heads, except the attack always deals 200 damage. It's just 2 random targets. Now, a lot of basic Pokemon do have 60 health in this game, but not all of them. So you can very easily get a free knockout with this attack. And then, of course, if your opponent only has a certain number of Pokemon on the board, it is very easy for you to hit 1 Pokemon for 100 or 150 damage. And if they're down to their last Pokemon, even if that Pokemon is Venusaur EX, 200 damage will knock the Pokemon out. There is not a single Pokemon in the game that can survive 200 damage. You have to get lucky, or your opponent has to be out of resources for you to hit 1 Pokemon 4 times, but it can happen, so let's keep that in mind. This is a really good attack. It does cost 4 energies, but it costs nothing else. You don't have to discard energies to use this effect, and it doesn't damage the Pokemon using it. It's unreliable, but it's very, very repeatable, and that means that you have to invest less resources in actually keeping the Pokemon powered up. You can focus all your energy on powering the Pokemon up 1 time and then rely on it for the rest of the match, especially since it can't, if it dies, it only takes 1 prize away from you. You could very easily have enough time to get 2 Dragonites live at the same time, if the game goes on long enough. For the first variant of the deck, we have 2 copies of Dratini. Dratini is a 70 health unit with 40 attack if you can equip both a water and lightning energy to it. No other effects, and no weaknesses. So Dratini is definitely the weakest part of your deck. You do need to have Dratini on the board basically from turn 1 so that you can actually get your Dragonite live, but you don't want Dratini to be in the active Pokemon zone. And it is very possible that you won't draw your Coughing in the Weezing variant or your Snom in the Frosmoth variant. And that is why the deck plays X Speed. X Speed is a trainer item that says during this turn the retreat cost of your active Pokemon is 1 less. That means that if you get unlucky and all you open is Dratini, you can play X Speed to allow you to switch your Dratini out without paying its retreat cost. Even though its retreat cost is only 1, you don't want to set yourself back a turn, and you're not going to attach energies to your other Pokemon anyway, so this can be a very easy way for you to put your Coughing and Weezing in play to tank hits while you power up for Dragonite. Dratini obviously evolves into Dragonair. Dragonair has 100 health. Its attack is Tail Smack, which does double the damage of Ram, but requires 1 more energy. Same retreat cost. Pretty good card, actually. So Dragonair is where Dratini really starts to become a very powerful threat. 3 energy for an 80 attack is a little bit high, but again, there's no cost after you have the initial energy requirement. The main problem with Dragonite is that since it's a dragon Pokemon and not a water or lightning Pokemon, you don't have any ways to add energies to it. You can't play a card like Misty or Lieutenant Surge on this card. It has to just get the energies over 4 turns. That's really hard to do, but the payoff is very, very high. We've already talked about what Dragonite does. Next up, for this variant, we are playing Coughing and Weezing. Coughing is a dark Pokemon with a single dark energy for suffocating gas. We are not going to play any dark energies in this deck. If you put a dark Pokemon in your deck, it will add dark energies to your energy counter, and you simply go in and manually remove them. You're not playing any dark energies. You don't need Coughing to attack, you just need it to sit there and take hits. And then you evolve it into Weezing. Weezing is a very interesting Pokemon for this game. Weezing has 110 health, which makes it very difficult to deal with, especially in a single hit, and its ability is called Gas Leak. Once per turn, if this Pokemon is in the active Pokemon zone, you may make your opponent's active Pokemon poisoned, with no energy cost. That's it. You can just make your opponent's Pokemon poisoned. That is extremely valuable. This Pokemon doesn't need to do anything other than evolve and take hits, while also damaging your opponent's Pokemon, and even if they retreat, Dragonite can still hit them on the bench. So being able to just put free damage on the board while you're powering up your Dragonite is very valuable. Now, Weezing does have a retreat cost of 3, which means that you can't use X Speed to return your Weezing to the bench when you're ready to put Dragonite out. But that's okay, because we have Koga. Koga is a very, very cool support card. It says, put your Muck or Weezing in the active spot into your hand. That also returns Coughing to your hand, by the way. That is insane. So it's basically like a Switch, except it also fully heals your Pokemon. Switch isn't even in this game. So a free Switch that also fully heals your Pokemon, but you do have to evolve it and replay energies on it. I mean, that's really solid, especially since you don't actually need to put any energies on it. I think Koga is actually probably better in this deck than it is in a dedicated Muck and Weezing deck, funnily enough, because of the lack of requirement of you putting energies on the Pokemon. This is just good. So you just get your Weezing out, you let it take some hits, then you poison one of your opponent's Pokemon, play Koga, return it to your hand, and then you send out your Dragonite and start beating people to death with it. For the trainer cards, we are playing Pokeball. Put a random basic Pokemon from your deck into your hand. You only have 2 targets, so you will get Dratini at some point. X-Speed, as we already described. Professor's Research is just Pot of Greed. And then Sabrina. Switch out your opponent's active Pokemon to the bench, but your opponent chooses the new active Pokemon. This is an excellent way to basically make your opponent waste energies. So you play Sabrina while you are trying to, build up your Dragonite, just to make sure that your opponent has to pull in a Pokemon that doesn't have any energies at all, and then they either waste energy to pay a retreat cost, or they start attaching energies to that new Pokemon, which may be less of a threat to your Weezing, and then you just have interrupted their game plan. So Sabrina is just like a good generic support card for any TCG deck. Next up, let's talk about the Frosmoth variant. The Frosmoth variant is more aggressive. The main reason why people play the Frosmoth variant is because this Pokemon is actually a water type, so that you can play Misty. What you want to do with the Frosmoth variant is you play Misty instead of Koga, and Misty allows Frosmoth to actually attack without you putting any energies onto it. But you have to get lucky. You have to flip 2 heads in order for Misty to accomplish this. And if Misty does not accomplish this, or you don't draw the Misty, then this deck is simply inferior to the Weezing list because Frosmoth has less health and it has a weakness that's no. Frosmoth's weakness isn't as easily exploited as Weezing's, but Weezing does have the free damage. So, and I do think that Koga's probably better than Misty, to be honest, because Misty is only good if you draw it early, whereas Koga can be good any turn. So I do think that the Weezing variant is probably better. But the Weezing variant is more expensive because Weezing itself is a 3-star rarity, whereas Frosmoth is only a 2-star rarity. Anyway, Snom only has 50 health. It rams for 10. And then Frosmoth, you need to have 2 energies on it, but it does Powder Snow. Your opponent's active Pokemon is now asleep. Now, it's important to note that you can only play Misty on a turn that water energies are available to you. If you have lightning energies available to you, you cannot play Misty at all. Misty is still a good card. Choose one of your water Pokemon, flip a coin until you get tails. For each heads, take a water energy from your energy zone and attach it to that Pokemon. So as long as you hit 2 heads, you can put Frosmoth live, and then you can start attacking with it, putting your opponent's Pokemon to sleep, dragging the game out, and then you just make your Dragonite. Same deck otherwise. There you go. So those are the 2 variants of Dragonite, which are cheap, effective, and fun. I think that this game is going to be really fun. I think that I'm going to enjoy it a lot, and I'll show some more replays later this week. My name is Serafi, and I was thrilled to have all of you with me.